The Italian Wine Podcast is the community-driven platform for Italian wine geeks around the world. Support the show by donating at ItalianWinepodcast.com. Donate €5 or more and we'll send you a copy of our latest book, My Italian Grape Geek Journal, absolutely free. To get your free copy of My Italian Grape Geek Journal, click Support Us at ItalianWinepodcast.com or wherever you get your pods. Grazie mille.
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to Umbria, to the wine region of Montefalco, to the town of Montefalco, and to the frazione of Turrita, to meet my guest Giampaolo Tabarrini, who is the fourth generation in his family business and is going to share with us the story of Azienda Agricola Tabarrini. Ciao, Giampaolo. I'm so sorry we weren't able to do this podcast at Vinitaly last month. It was such a crazy time. How was Vinitaly for you?
Ciao, Mark. Ciao, everybody. Well, I was so happy about Vinitaly this year. First of all, we saw all the faces that we wasn't looking for or watching from a long time. Last Vinitaly, yes, many people from Europe, States, Asia came back to Verona to attend to the fair, but not as much as usual. This year, just from the first day, we saw all the old friends coming back, and that was a beauty. Because let me say, Mark, that was the really first Vinitaly where we hugged each other and we didn't miss anybody. So I had a very good feeling from last Vinitaly, Mark.
Yes, I thought it was an extraordinary atmosphere right from day one, or even starting the day earlier when I saw you at Opera Wine, which we'll talk about as well, which is a special event.
But at Opera, well, you said it really a bit true. Just at Opera, we got the same feeling, and we was talking each other. Opera is not only a meeting point for producer and importers and journalists, but it's mostly the day where the friends winemaker talk to you. So we meet each other, and all of us, we were just talking in the middle of the events and say there is a different smell. In terms, smell better, of course, because all of us got the feeling that it's going to be a different year. That is a really good departure point.
Well, good. That's great. And I'm glad that it felt so positive for everybody. Everyone I've spoken to had that same feeling. May coming to Vinitaly over many, many years, I was very, very excited this year. So let's hope it's a good start to this year and for Italian wine around the world. Now, Giampaolo, some of our listeners are located all around the world, and although they may have heard of Montefalco and its wines, they don't really know the place. They haven't visited. I know some have, but many may not have. I love Montefalco. It's a very special, small place. Can you take our listeners there? Can you describe Montefalco and the wine country?
Well, you're definitely true. Montefalco is not so known with his own name because, Mark, let's talk about the territory, it's the bottles. And Montefalco do not produce a large amount of bottles. Think that the main wine that is the Sagrantino, it's almost 1 million bottles. 1 million bottles for all the world. So we're talking about a very small production. But if it's true that not all the consumers know Montefalco and his product, because Montefalco doesn't produce only Sagrantino, produce a beautiful Montefalco Rosso that it's a blend with mostly Sangiovese. Montefalco produce a great white wine that is Trebbiano Spoletino. in historical grapes. So Montefalco is rich in terms of beautiful wines. The only problem is that the availability of such products, it's very limited. So, and of course, every bottle talk to a subject. So the more bottle you have, the more time you talk. So we are limited because of the bottle. But let me say, Mark, that it's true that many consumers doesn't know deeply about Montefalco, but be sure that all of them, at least once in the life, they eat at our table. Montefalco and Umbria, the art of Umbria, it's a place where the most of raw materials in terms of foods are coming from. So when you eat at your table cold cuts, salami, sausage, this is our tradition. So you eat at our table. When you eat truffles, black truffles are coming from our area. So you had a bite of our territory. When we talk about lentils, so the canina cow that we share with the neighbor Tuscany, and there is a daily challenge about that. And even more, let me say, everybody know all around the world St. Francis from Assisi. Assisi is just next door. It's 5 minute driving. So if we talk about Montefalco and in a large circle, everybody know Montefalco or eat at the table of Montefalco.
That's really good to place it in context. And I remember Montefalco, the town itself, and it's been many years since I have visited Montefalco, Giampaolo. I remember it is such a beautiful small town that is really worth discovering. I can remember going up into, I think it the bell tower of the town, or the La Ringhiera dell'Umbria, this beautiful view across the wine hills, these gentle hills across the roofs of the town. A really special place to come and visit.
Well, Montefalco, we're so lucky. We're so lucky because as the happenings drop down on the peninsula, in the area of Umbria, he make a cycle and he start to go down again to the south. So think that there is this circle of mountains, and in the middle of the circle of mountains, there is an hill. And this hill in the center of everything, it's Montefalco. And from Montefalco, you can take a look to any single other town that is on the round. So when we say Montefalco is the green balcony of Umbria, it's because it's this just beautiful hill surrounded by the green with all the mountains far away all around and all the villages, medieval villages hooked on the mountain. So it's, yeah, you're right. Mark, it's something that is not easy to describe. We talking each other and we understand each other because we had the chance to grab it, to be there. But it's not easy to describe how beautiful is Montefalco.
No, I'm going to tell our listeners they have to visit and they have to come and experience it themselves. Now, I want to just mention a little bit of history as well. As one is standing in Montefalco and seeing this beautiful view all around, one might catch a sight of birds of prey, of falcons in the air, because it's an area where falcons have traditionally been. And Federico II, the Lo Stupor Mundi, the Hohenstaufen Holy Roman Emperor, was very fond of Montefalco. And in fact, did he rename the town? Is that what happened?
Exactly. The name of Montefalco in the past was Coccorone. In Latin, it was Urbis Coccoronibus. So the name was Coccorone. And Federico II renamed it as Montefalco. So the mountain for falcons. Yes, there was a long tradition of falcons. And you know, Mark, I like to know something in advance because it's a reason, from a recent research, we discovered that falcons from Federico II didn't give only the name to the town, but gave the name even to the Sagrantino. From a recent research, historical research, we discovered on Vatican Museum, as you know, there is a lot of information over there, that when Federico II was in town, falcon gets sick. At that time, there was a poison to give to the falcon to save them. And it was done with a flower, the violet one. And to be extract, because as you know, this flower, the violet one, have good elements inside that usually are extracted with the alcohol. But the time to do the process, it was very long. And such poison wasn't available in Montefalco and should come from the south. But the time to ride with the lords from the south to the center, it was too long. So all the doctors, his local doctor, tried to do a poison with the violet flower, adding the wines. And they gave the wines with the flower to the falcon, and all the falcon being saved. So the name Sagrantino is from Arabian, it's sacral. So the sacred wine that saved the sacred falcon, because for Federico II, falcon was sacred. So the Sagrantino is the wine that saved the sacred falcon for Federico II.
Oh, that's an incredible story. I'm really glad to hear.
Oh, you got it for first. You see, you got it for first. We didn't yet release such news, but
That's incredible.
that's it.
Yeah. Well, Giampaolo, let's talk about your family. And you're the fourth generation growing grapes and making wine. And you've really done a huge amount to put Montefalco on the world wine map. So tell us about your family story and your own story.
Yeah, well, I got the company in 1996 when I was 22 years old. Of course, at that time I was very young. My father, as the most of the grower, didn't trust about the son, no, and so he didn't give me the property, but he simply rent to me the lands just to give me a chance to prove him that I was able to handle the agriculture company. Let me say that my family didn't want that I keeps ahead the agriculture work. The family always did this, and they always told me that is not sustainable, be a grower. So it's better do something else in the life. So go to work in a bank, exit in the morning with the jacket and the tape and the merch and go into an office. So you have your hands clean, you do not sweat, you do not get cold in the winter for working the soil and doing the stuff. So my family tried to push me in another direction, said, and at the beginning, I tried to follow also them suggestions. So I was following the agricultural company. At the same time, I was working as accounting in some companies and so on. So, but after a few years, I deeply feel the need to do just one job. And the art moved me to the lands. Of course, my mama wasn't so happy. My father a little bit more. But at the end of 2000, I became the proprietor of the lands because I proved to my father that I was able to handle the vineyard, I was able to handle the winery. And I said to them, I know that you dream for else for me, but this is my dream. My mom cried a little, but at the end said, okay, it's up to you. So I immediately start to build a new winery because when I got the company, I used to do the wine inside the family house. So, Italian houses in the countryside, houses are very huge. And on the main floor, they used to be in the center a kitchen and usually on a side the cows and the other side there was the winery. So when I got the company, my winery was next door to the kitchen with the old concrete tanks. Really old wooden barrels and tools that was tools of the 1970, 1980. So when I got the company physically, so I became the proprietor, I got the chance to build my first winery. That was something I was always dreaming for. Let me say that at the same time, Mark, we moved from sell the wine in bulk to merchants and local people. We stopped selling the wine in bulk and we start to store and age it because the idea it was to try to make a bottle. One of the phrases that at that time, because think that in the middle of 90s, Montefalco, it wasn't the Montefalco that everybody know today. It was another Montefalco. And in the middle of 90s, I remember that the most of the time my father told me, Giampaolo, are you serious? Do you really believe that people want to pay 10,000 lira for a bottle of wine that is not yet a liter when they pay 2,000 lira for a liter? So I believe that your idea cannot work. So, because the idea for a grower that the wine was in bottle 750 is not a liter, no, it doesn't work. So it wasn't easy, but things work.
Italian Wine Podcast. If you think you love wine as much as we do, then give us a like and a follow anywhere you get your pods.
Giampaolo, I'm going to interrupt you there because I think this is such an important story. It's because you took over at a time when Italian wine was poised to have a real renaissance, not just Montefalco, but elsewhere across Italy, when a new generation was coming in and realizing the great patrimony of native grapes and the possibility to, yes, bottle your own wine, sell your own wine, but also be able to present it on a world stage and have people appreciate how unique and special it is. And you've been part of that story.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, this is exactly what happened to the most of us. As I told you before, producers from Tuscany, Sicily, Piedmont, they're friends. They are very close by friends because we had this experience together. We try to cross the world and be part of the world together. And yes, we departed in a period where it was really far away from the actual situation. But anyway, fortunately, things happen. And we start to present the wine not only locally, but we start to present the wine all around the world, as you told. And it was the first strange things, because at the end of 90s, beginning of 2000, the most of the Italian grower didn't speak English. Let me say that my English was so bad at that time, because when you hand the school in Italy, you know just few phrases, the cat is on the window, the pen is on the table, so this is what you know. So, and not with with such pronunciation, with an ugly one. So we had to learn to talk to the world, just learning a language, and this before to start to sell a product. And so we've been definitely world citizen, and the world hugs us, because when we've been able to talk and present and show what we've been able to do, people appreciate it. And when people start to smile, that means that we make them happy. And when people are happy, things happen. And things happen. We start to distribute the wine all around the world. The first awards and the highlights of all the press and journalists. But we never been satisfied of the success, because we weren't following a success. We try to do our best and try to let understand to the people that this is something special to have a bite. And that's it. And then
That's a wonderful story, and there has been much success, as I've already mentioned. Opera Wine, the 100 best Italian wines, as picked by the Wine Spectator, remarkable gathering of wine producers from all over Italy. And Tabarrini is there, and in Gambero Rosso, and all of the magazines and accolades and awards. So it must be a great satisfaction, having started from really the time when wine was sold in bulk to the recognition that Montefalco now has. I know you've been a great ambassador for the region as the president of the consortio, but let's talk about a few of your wines now. We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to touch on some of your wines so that our listeners can really understand what you're doing. And although Montefalco is known foremost for this extraordinary grape, Sagrantino, I'd like to start with that white grape you mentioned, the Trebbiano Spoletino. In your case, I think you say Trebbiano Tabarrini. Can you tell us about your Padrone Bianco?
Oh, yes, for sure. Let me say that the story of Trebbiano Spoletino is another beautiful story. I started to bottle Trebbiano Spoletino around 99, 2000. At that time, the legal name of the wine was Bianco Umbria IGT Trebbiano Spoletino. So it was just an IGT, it wasn't a DOC, it wasn't a DOCG. The market doesn't accept such product. Let me say that when I was at Vinitaly at that time, so beginning of 2000, and my first importers come to the booth, I come to them and say, "Ciao, Mike. May I taste you my Trebbiano Spoletino?" Before to learn to say Spoletino, they were just hands up. And they used to say, Giampaolo, please go ahead with the reds. And this is just to say, don't waste my time with this garbage. So mentally, they was thinking something like that. So if you do not have the chance to taste them the wine, you will never be allowed to sell it. So in 2004, we flipped the name from Trebbiano Spoletino to a fantasy name, and we called the wine Ad Armando. So next year's Mike come to the booth and say, "Hi, Mike, may I taste you my new Ad Armando? And what is this? Before you taste it, then we talk about." So they get a sip, they taste the wine. "Oh, this is amazing. What is this? Trebbiano Spoletino?" "No." "Yes." So, and that you start to talk and things happening. And in 2005, we went to a final tasting for Tre Bicchieri Gambero Rosso, the same in 6. And in 2007, Ad Armando being awarded for the first time Tre Bicchieri Gambero Rosso, when at that time we used to be awarded for the reds, not for the whites. And even more, the only awarded wine at that time in Umbria was Cervaro della Sala from Antinori family. But Cervaro della Sala is an international grapes aged in oak. Ad Armando, it was an indigenous grapes aged in stainless steel up to the lees. So, beautiful story. And after this, there was the explosion of Trebbiano Spoletino. A lot of wineries start to grow it. But if you go back to the story and you open the guides, wine guides, and you go back, you see that I'm telling you the true story. Now, to answer you, Padrone delle Vigne. Ad Armando and Padrone delle Vigne, they're twins. They're born from the same tanks. So we do have only one tanks per year of Trebbiano Spoletino. Ad Armando is what we used to call the first flower. So the wine that drop out from the tanks, so it's going to naturally be separated by the skins and drop out by the tanks. Padrone delle Vigne is what remains. So all the juice, all the mousse that is on the skin, the wet skin, and is coming from a soft pressure. So, and we call this second flower. There is a huge difference. Padrone delle Vigne do have a more powerful character. It's more strong. It's more the wine that the grandpa used to eat at the table at breakfast with the panino. By the way, our breakfast is just croissant and coffee. In the middle of the day, around 10:30, we do have our breakfast. That is a panino. And with the panino, we used to have a glass of wine. So Padrone delle Vigne is the wine for the grandpa mid breakfast. So
For that second breakfast.
exactly, the real one, the real stuff.
Okay.
I'll try to tell you the shortly story of Trebbiano Spoletino and Armando. But let me say the difference. You said that Trebbiano Tabarrini. You said another true. That is really good to say because in 2003, we handed the work with University of Florence where we selected the clones of Trebbiano Spoletino from all our old vines. We do have vines that are over 100 years old, and draft vines. And from such vines, we've been able to do a selection. And in 2007, we handed all the works to replace and replant new vineyards that are coming from selected clone. So, yes, our Trebbiano is different because behind there is a work on the vineyard, there is a work on the lands. We did research, we study, because actual grower is not the grower at the time of my grandpa. My grandpa, it was a very smart man, but he didn't went to school. He didn't have the tools. Maybe he was even more able to me to do the things, but he used to tell me every time, a good worker is a good worker if you do have good tools. So we are better worker only because we do have better tools. And we use the better tools we do have today to make even better. Yes, thank you for saying that Trebbiano Tabarrini is different because it's something that is come from a long job.
Okay. And I just want to emphasize to our listeners who may not have encountered Trebbiano Spoletino, it's a completely unique native grape variety, very different from Trebbiano Toscano, for example. It has this richness and fullness and immense character that is really unique and must be sampled if you have the opportunity. Now, Giampaolo, you've mentioned the Rosso di Montefalco, but I want to, which is primarily Sangiovese with Sagrantino, but I want to turn our attention to this extraordinary grape, Sagrantino, and about the grape, but also about some of you produce a number of Sagrantino wines. I tasted a remarkable wine at Opera this year that I really want to hear more about because it astonished and surprised me. But let's talk about Sagrantino.
Sagrantino is known on the world as a rich, powerful, huge wine, rich in tannins. Let me say that a product, it is what it is, but it's also something that is coming from our minds. I used to say every time that a winemaker is a chef, and the chef handles the material, the raw material. So it's like an egg. You can take an egg and you can have scrambled eggs, the most easy things to do. Or you can fry just the red. Before then, Krakow explained to everybody how it's possible to fry only the red. Everybody said, it's impossible, do it. But then it's very easy to do because Krakow described it, how to do it. So Sagrantino for me is not the wine that everybody thinks, and it's not for me in this way from a long time. Thing that, as you told, we used to do since 2003, cru. So we do not have selection. We do not have an entry level. We make single vineyard wine. Every corner of every single vineyard produce a different Sagrantino. It's like if you do have a fruit tree in your garden, you see that at a certain point of the season that one fruit start to turn in color. The first one is on the south side. After 1 week, all the other fruits of the tree turn in color. And after a month, all the fruits are ripe. But if you are going to pick a fruit on south side of the tree, a fruit on north side of the tree, one on east and one on west, the four of them, they have different taste, even if they are coming from the same tree planted on the same garden. So make the crew is exactly this. Every vineyard make a wine. And we started to do it 21 years ago. And everybody tell me at that time that I was crazy. And since that time, we're trying to do a Sagrantino that is different far away from any other Sagrantino. A wine that, first of all, do have a drinkability. We don't make wines that the market asks for. We make wines that we like to drink. And so we never follow somebody else's idea. We follow our own palate. Our Sagrantino, they're fresh, they are crispy, they have a net acidity, and first of all, they are drinkable even if they are young. Of course, we're talking as a parole of a wine that deserves to be aged, because if you age it, it's going to be even more beautiful. But anyway, before we were talking of another wine, our fourth Sagrantino. The name of the wine is Il Bisbedico Domato. So our historical crew is Colle Grimaldesco, Campo alla Cerqua, and Colle alle Macchie. Now it's born Il Bisbedico Domato. Bisbedico, if you want to literally translate in English, is cantankerous. So they don't cantankerous. It's also a famous movie, Italian movie of Adriano Celentano, where Adriano Celentano was a winemaker on the movie. So there is a lot of double meaning, triple meaning on the name of the wine. And this wine is far away from any other Sagrantino because it's light in color. It's super approachable. I had a lot of funny story with a lot of friends at winemakers where I told them that it was Pinot Noir.
Okay.
And they trust me. They trust me. So, of course, it's not Pinot Noir, but just to give an idea. This is because we are chef. And as a Michelin star chef, you have to be careful in handle raw materials step by step, day after day, and try to keep the final result in a direction instead into another, because we do have a mind and our mind is able to do everything.
That's extraordinary. So was that the wine that was presented at Opera this year?
Yes, exactly. Opera, it was the first time where il bisbetico tomato quit from the cellar and show himself to the world.
And it was a surprise. I've tasted your wines on a number of occasions, and they are always astonishing wines. But Sagrantino has this reputation, rightly so, for being dense in color, in tannin, rich in tannin, and power. And the beauty of this wine was it had grace and elegance and still that structure. So it was a really beautiful expression.
Let me say, Mark, that Wine Spectator staff, Bruce and Allison, allowed me to keep a 2020 wine that is not yet released, because we are currently releasing the 19. But they grab exactly the idea. Why they allowed me to keep a 2020, a wine that is so young, because it's when you take a wine so young that you can underline even more how far is this kind of wine from the bad old idea that somebody can have about the Sagrantino.
Sure.
Because, many people say Sagrantino is good after 15 years, after 20 years from the release. 2020 is not yet in the market. And as you told, it's another story. It's another word. So I want to really thank all the Wine Spectator team to allow me and to trust. Of course, they taste the wine for first, but there is a lot of people that has to taste, no? But they try and they say, Giampaolo, you're right. And we get the idea perfectly, releasing even a younger vintage at the top.
Yes, absolutely beautiful. Now, Giampaolo, we've overrun our time, but I want to keep talking because this is so good and so important. I want to talk about one more wine, and that's the Passito di Sagrantino. And then I'd like to talk about your wine experiences, what our listeners can visit and experience with you. And also, I would like to talk about food and wine a little bit more because I know there's such a rich gastronomy. So, first of all, Passito.
Well, it's our sweet wine, but it's not sweet. Yes, it is sweet, but it's not a desert wine. What I mean, saying sweet wine, but not sweet. First of all, Sagrantino Passito is coming from Sagrantino grapes that are dried on the wrecks, no? So as happened for Recioto, as happened for a short time in Amarone, just to give you an idea. So when we dry the grapes, we do have a concentration in terms of sugar. But the wine that comes out, it's a little bit sweet, but at the same time, it's dry because of the tannins, because at the same time, you do have a concentration not only of the sugar, but even of taste, smells, and so on. So all the character of the grapes are growing up in terms of perception, no? So the wine we take, that is an historical, is a very old wine, is a traditional wine, is a wine that is not a desert wine. You cannot pair with chocolate. It doesn't work with chocolate. It works much better with salt and with sweet meat. This is something that we deliver, for example, is perfect. Historically, it was paired to the free-range wild pigeon, roasted free-range wild pigeon. And when they used to roast it, they used to stuff inside the breast a lot of bread with pepper, spicy, and other kind, pig meat. So they stuff the breast with other beauty, but again with a lot of taste. So this is a wine that is perfect to be paired with aged cheese. Let me say that this is an after dinner. You hand your dinner, you go outside, you street looking at you, and you get your cigar, and you have Sagrantino Passito. Mark, it was also the wine of Easter breakfast. Easter breakfast is the only breakfast in Italy where we eat a lot. So we used to have herrings, we used to have boiled eggs, we used to have our cheesecake that is not what the word known as cheesecake because it's not sweet. It's a salty pizza that is done with the pecorino cheese and Parmesan cheese. So we call cheesecake, but it's not a cheesecake. It's a salty bread with we used to pair with the cold cuts, so salami, sausage, capocollo, lonza, coppa, ham, and the passito was the wine to pair at this breakfast.
Okay, that's amazing. Sticking with food then, what would be the ideal, typical Montefalco dish to have with Trebbiano Spoletino, and the ideal with Rosso di Montefalco and Sagrantino. Just one dish for each.
Okay, for the Trebbiano Spoletino, I'm definitely sure because it's tagliatelle or strangozzi with white truffle. Why I say white truffle? Because one of the smell of the Trebbiano Spoletino is the white truffle. And Trebbiano Spoletino, we didn't said before, that is a very ageable wine. And along the aging, Trebbiano Spoletino rise up the smell of white truffle that slowly move to a smell of petrol, gasoline, as a Riesling,
Okay.
just to give you an idea.
Okay.
So pair with the white truffle, the Trebbiano is amazing. If you do not have the white truffle, it's okay, the black one, but the white is even better.
Okay. And with Rosso di Montefalco.
Rosso di Montefalco is a versatile wine. You can pair with almost everything, but I love the lamb. I believe the lamb fry ribs.
Okay, great. And finally, Sagrantino.
Okay, Sagrantino is a wine that before we said it's good with huge dishes, powerful dishes. Let me say something that somebody probably say you crazy. Well, I would like to say let's have il bisbetico domato, the new Sagrantino, as an aperitivo. So you can have even just a slide of salami if you wish. But of course, that is a wine that you can have with pasta, you can have with meat. But I want to say a craziness. So Sagrantino and salami.
Okay. Having tasted wine, I can understand that. It was such a beautiful wine, and it would have been even better if we'd had a slice of Umbrian salami at your stand at Opera.
Yeah, I got Mark. It's for me, Il Bisbetico Tomato is a wine for the 15th of August at 12 on the beach on the rocks with nothing.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'll imagine you doing that this summer. Now, finally, our visitors are going to love hearing this story and are going to want to visit. What can they experience if they come to Tabarrini?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, in the last 15 years, I started to dream a lot to my winery because, as I told you, I was born in a small winery, very small winery. So I always dream for the opposite. And along my trips, I collect a lot of ideas and I try to keep all together. And after 11 years of works, we handed a new winery that is mostly full to host the guests. So we have outside huge spaces with patios. We do have a theater, and the theater is not just to listen somebody singing, but on the bottom of the theater there is the vineyard, and there is all the villages hooked on the mountain, what we were talking before. So the theater is just to enjoy the nature, listen the birds, watching the big birds, not falcon, but we call poiane. It's a small falcon, but they very often all around, long-haired rabbit running on the field. So this is the outside. Inside, it's like we do have a huge American bar. So it looks inside to a South Africa winery or a Napa winery with huge space inside. And we do have a greenhouse in the middle of the reception area where there is 300 years old lemon trees, good lemons that we use for cooking daily. We do have kitchen garden all around where we grab our stuff. People can enjoy by themselves what they get from the lands. So it's a mix of tradition, historical stuff, because this is where we are, but show in a clothes that is more contemporary and is more readable by people that are not only wine lover, but just people that want to enjoy a beautiful day.
Okay, well, I can't wait to visit myself, and I hope I can find a way to do so sometime this year.
I wait you, Mark. You should.
Giampaolo, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you today. We could go on for hours and hours, but then we definitely would need a glass of your wine to continue our discussion. It's been a real pleasure. I do hope that our listeners will be inspired to discover Montefalco and to discover the wines of Tabarrini, which are available around the world. And so you can travel to Montefalco through the wine, but even better would be to come to the place itself and taste some of these wonderful foods. Grazie mille, Giampaolo. I look forward to seeing you soon. Grazie, a presto.
Thank you, Mark. Ciao, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you. Buona giornata.
Ciao, ciao.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe right here or wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at ItalianWinePodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.